Hey gang, Ronan here. As you can see in this game, I am playing the Tier 6 Aoba, or Aoba, depending upon your particular flavor of pronunciation. I'm going to stick with Aoba. Matchmaking, decent. Both teams, of course, have a CV. A lot of big shells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 battleships. Enemy team has an Atlanta and a Flint. And then in terms of shells again, York and Nuremberg, both of which have very hard-hitting AP. There's one destroyer. We've got the Shinonome, which you can see there, and the bad guys have the Fubuki. Both teams with a Cachalot. Submarine. Now, why am I showing you this replay? Well, not too long ago, I did a series of, I will call them how-tos or tutorials on how to play the low and mid-tier Japanese torpedo destroyers. And I highlighted Fubuki and Kagero, I think. So I wanted to do something similar with the Aoba to give you some idea of how I play. I mean, I can't say how to play, I guess. How I play these low and mid-tier Japanese cruisers. Now, these are interesting cruisers because beginning at Tier 5, these cruisers have big guns. They're 203s, and they hit really hard, and they're pretty accurate. So, you know, they can surprise some people, especially newer players who are accustomed to seeing maybe 150s on cruisers. Now, what am I doing here? I don't want to commit to the channel between the 9 and 10 line or the center until I have some idea of what the positioning of the red team is. What I consider the responsibility, or at least the responsibility that I take on when I play these ships, is, well, I'd say the two primary things are helping to fend off destroyers and or submarines, and starting fires on battleships. Now, you can see the range is pretty decent. It's 14.9 kilometers. You can see that on the mini-map there. It's not bad for the tier. And it does allow you to fire from range because the guns are pretty accurate for a Tier 6 ship. And then turn and angle to minimize the return fire. So I see a Fubuki, and that means my job is, at least as far as I'm concerned, protect my battleships. And he's kind of YOLOing in. I'm not sure why he's doing that, but I consider it my responsibility to take care of that destroyer as long as he continues to push this way. I'm just trying to get all my guns around. Nuremberg's running. He wants no part of this. But that Fubuki, I'm sure he's looking at this as an opportunity to put torpedoes into a battleship. Now, I'm going to have plenty of help here, but it's my job to finish him off. Now, owing to the faster reload of a cruiser and the accuracy of a cruiser, I really feel like it is my job. Now, Gneisenau pushed in and was going to just crush him, but I was able to finish him. And from here, there are some some choices to be made. You can see that the enemy Cachalot is up there with the Flint. We'll call it Delta 4. We've got West Virginia and Repulse following the line of our Shinonome and Cachalot. And Gneisenau looks like he's going to run outside. Now, Gneisenau and Repulse are both fast battleships, as their Mackinson takes out our York. So each team is now down one ship. You can see they have a 10-point lead, and that's owing to the fact that cruisers are worth more points than destroyers. So they took our cruiser, and we only took a destroyer, so they are a little bit up on points. Now you can see I've got pretty solid range, and you'll see that this ship's pretty accurate. The guns are pretty accurate. But this Nuremberg does do some wiggling and some avoiding. And it takes almost 10 seconds for my shells to get there, so not easy to land shells at what amounts to max range, 13.8 kilometers. On a cruiser, much easier on a battleship. Gneisenau catches him, and Nuremberg's armor cannot handle the Gneisenau shells. I'm really hoping I can get kill number 2 here, but just going to take a Gneisenau shell just grazing him. And I'll need to land probably 2. Only landed 1, wasn't enough. And I think that's going to be it for Nuremberg. And it is. So now, do I cut through the middle, or do I just push north? I'm going to cut through the middle. I want to be able to get guns on those battleships as quickly as possible. I know Gneisenau's fast. Roughly the same speed as this cruiser. I know it can get up over 30 knots. Now there's, again, Atlanta and a Flint on the red team. Our guys are positioned pretty well. You can see our Scharnhorst B, Helena, Warspite, and Atlanta, all kind of making use of the islands, other than the Scharnhorst. He and the Mackinson are probably slugging it out. But we're going to have a Shinonome that's in the cap. Now, I don't know whether a Shinonome player was aware of it, but the Duke of York has Hydro, and you can see the Shinonome just got smashed there. So even if he smokes up, the Duke of York's going to be able to see him. Now, that doesn't mean the Duke of York's going to survive this exchange, but it means his secondaries are working that Shinonome over at that range. Shinonome is able to withstand the onslaught, and Cachalot torpedoes take out the Duke of York. So now the red team is down Duke of York, Nuremberg, and Fubuki. We're still down only York, and we've got a destroyer at their cap and a submarine at their cap. Now, it's not hard to see that as soon as that cap starts to turn, they're going to want their radar boats back this way, and that's going to be the Flint and the Atlanta. I'm going to have a Gneisenau, West Virginia, and Repulse, who can potentially help out up here. But I'm going to position to try and light fires and defend our destroyer and submarine against the likely response of the Flint and the Atlanta. And you can see the the anti-aircraft on this ship is, well, like most things, Tier 6, pretty pathetic. And there's a fire, so I'm just going to try and start another one. And lo and behold, their CB pops his head out. Why this guy did this is just beyond me. He could see that the cap circle was turning, and he charged right in. So he's squaring up with the Shinonome, Cachalot, Gneisenau, and Aoba. I tell you, I sure miss the days when fires could burn and floods could flood for a while on CVs. This whole automatic 5-second limit thing, it's just ridiculous. And you can see Flint pushed up, back to the cap. That's going to be it for the vessel. So Flint caught our Shinonome and blapped him. Just going to throw a guesstimate out there of where the Flint might be going. Aimed a little too low. See if I can catch him this time. CV smashes me pretty good with some bombs there, but he's gone. And I'm going to angle up to make it harder for their shells to land and make use of this smoke. Now, Atlanta and Flint do not have good armor, and if I aim in the right places, I can do, well, there you go, decent damage. It's 6,000 damage. See if I can follow that up with another good shot. And either Atlanta, well, it had to be Atlanta, I guess, this time. Got our Cachalot with radar and blapped him. But that Atlanta, he's nose into a battleship and a cruiser, a heavy cruiser. And it's just one more volley, I think, and he's probably gone. Yeah. So down goes the Atlanta. Now, I'm not, I'm certainly not lighting the world on fire, but as I mentioned earlier, light fires, handle destroyers, and in this case, put shells on cruisers. Now, maybe Atlanta was thinking I'll rush in and try and get torpedoes on Gneisenau, but if that was his idea, it was a pretty bad one. I think the Gneisenau torpedo angles are better than the angles on the Atlanta, or at least as good. Best he could have hoped for would be the trade, and chances are good Gneisenau or myself were going to blap him before he ever got there. But you did see, I think, that his rudder was taken out by one of the shells earlier. So he may not have had a choice but to continue. Now, the range on those torpedoes is such that I think I'm probably okay here. So I'm not going to worry about them too much. Just keep an eye on them. And keep putting shells on the flint. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, our Scharnhorst is still in it, our Warspite's still in it, but they've pushed that flank pretty hard. They've got Virginia, King George, Mackinson. Unfortunately for them, we're in their cap, and none of them is fast enough to get back here. Fuso does take out our Warspite. Fuso's not long for this world. He's caught in a crossfire. Fuso goes down to torpedoes from the Ranger. And this game is pretty firmly in the bag. Their only hope is that Flint can continue to reset us, but I don't think Flint's going to be able to survive long enough to do that. And it just used its smoke not too long ago. I doubt it's up yet. It's probably still on cooldown. Nope, he's just started to use it, but too little too late. And he gets blapped more or less same time as Mackinson does. And this one's in the history books. So we're 39 seconds from victory. There'll be a few more volleys fired here, but not much more action. So just to recap, playing the Aoba, Miyoko, or Furataka, I think playing them in a similar way is good. Try and help your team against enemy DDs. Light fires on battleships from range. Do what you can to help against cruisers. Keep in mind their armor and such. And angle to avoid incoming fire. Hope you enjoyed this. Thanks very much for spending some time. I'll see you next time.